Hello, this is Jim Worden. This is my homework for Paul McWhorter's Raspberry Pi Pico W lessons for absolute beginners, lesson number 56. The purpose of the lesson was to read the joystick values for the X and Y axes, convert the raw values, which range from 0 to 65,535, into -100 to 0 to 100, display the converted values in the REPL. In order to accomplish this, we're going to have two programs and two import libraries. A main program, a calibration program, a library that contains a joystick class with all of the functions we'll need to actually read and manipulate the joystick, and a library that the calibration program will create on the fly. The main program will fetch readings from the joystick and print them to the REPL. Very little logic in this program other than just fetch and print. There is much to be done, however, to make that program that simple. First, we have to calibrate the joystick. Since there's no firmware on the joystick itself, we must create a calibration program that sits between our program and the joystick, the hardware, and converts the raw data coming in into readings that we want, -100 to +100. This program will record minimum, maximum readings and data slopes that we'll need to convert these raw values, and create a library, an import library on the Pico W itself that we can use later. Once we have this calibration data available, we'll need several functions to provide common access to the joystick. The most flexible way to implement these functions is to create a class containing all of the necessary functions. This class is then placed into an import library, which also imports the data from the calibration operation, as we mentioned earlier, and place it onto the Pico W. So now we have two files on the Pico W, joystick class and the joystick data. With the calibration done and the import libraries in place, the last step is to write the main program that calls the imported joystick access functions and displays the data. First step is to run the calibration program. This program requires two components: the hardware, the joystick, and a dummy, me. The program will instruct the dummy, me, to perform several operations using the joystick to collect the resting state readings and the minimum and maximum readings for each axis. Note that we're instructed to wiggle the joystick at the extreme of each axis to ensure that we see the actual minimum or maximum values. Once all of the data is collected, the program will do the necessary calculations to allow conversion of the raw joystick data to positive or negative 0 to 100 values. When the calculations are complete, a new import library, joystickdata.py, will be created on the Pico W. And so it begins. What we're seeing here is the joystick calibration process. We'll run this and note the instructions down here in the REPL. It's ready to collect data. It's making sure we're ready. When we're ready, we press enter. Note that we're doing nothing with the joystick except holding it at this point. Now it's collected the resting data and displayed it. Now it wants us to move the joystick to the far left and wiggle it back and forth, and we'll press enter again. Now we press it all the way to the right, wiggle it again, and press enter. To the bottom, then to the top. Okay, now we've collected all the data. We're through with the joystick for the time being. At this point, we now have another file that we'll open. No, we don't want to do that. we'll open a file on the Pico, joystick data. And there's all of the data that we collected, minimum and maximum raw values, the resting raw values, and a slope for each segment, each quadrant of the joystick. Now that we have all of that in place, we can look at our joystick class program. It's also residing on the Pico W. We start out with the joystick data, importing the joystick data that we just created. We have an initializer which merely sets up the hardware. This little function reads the raw data from the joystick and returns it. Now we fetch the raw values. Here we're fetching the raw values. Note that we call the raw joystick data function to get the raw values, and then convert them into -100 to +100. That's about all there is to this. Now we can look at the main program itself. Get a hold of the joystick. When we run the main program, note that it's showing near zero values. When we go all the way to the left, it's showing -100. All the way to the right, close to +100. To the bottom, -100 and +100. And if we just circle around, we get all of the intermediate readings. Thanks very much for watching. That's all we have for you. Thanks.